One week before my birthday, I never imagined that the people I gave life to, the ones whose tiny fingers once curled around mine, the ones whose first steps I cheered for, the ones whose scraped knees I bandaged and whose tears I wiped away, would one day sit across from me with eyes colder than strangers and push a paper toward me as if my existence had become nothing more than a signature, a life agreement they called it, a cruel contract meant to strip me of the little dignity and power I still held. And as their smiles cut through the air with a sharpness I had never seen before, I felt my heart sink into a place I didn't even know existed, because betrayal from blood is not like betrayal from the world. Betrayal from blood tastes like poison that lingers in your veins. Betrayal from blood burns in a way that no wound ever could. And in that moment, as they leaned closer saying, "Sign or be disowned," I saw in their eyes not my children but wolves, greedy and hungry, circling prey. They believed was too weak to fight back, but what they didn't know, what they couldn't imagine, was that behind the tired eyes of their mother still lived the same fire that had carried me through storms, that had pushed me through nights of hunger, that had lifted me when I was left alone, that had given me the strength to raise them without complaint. And that fire, oh that fire, was about to burn hotter than it ever had before, because while they thought I was cornered, while they thought age had made me fragile, they had forgotten one thing. I still owned the 720-acre ranch that carried my father's blood and sweat. I still had $5 million quietly resting in a trust they knew nothing about. And most of all, I still had a plan that would turn their smugness into silence, their arrogance into fear, and their betrayal into the very chain that bound them to their downfall. And as I stared at the paper on the table, the echoes of my past came rushing back like ghosts, reminding me of the life I had lived, the sacrifices I had made, the nights I stayed awake when they were sick, the mornings I went hungry so they could eat, the winters I kept the fire burning so they wouldn't freeze, and every birthday I had put aside for their happiness. Yet here they were, handing me betrayal as a gift, and instead of tears, I felt something else rise inside me. Strength, the kind of strength you don't scream, the kind you wear quietly like armor, and I smiled, not out of joy, but out of the knowledge that they had underestimated me, and underestimating a mother is the greatest mistake anyone can ever make. So I played along. I asked questions, I listened, I let them talk, and in their greed they revealed everything. They showed me who they had become, and I stored it all away as fuel for the plan that was already unfolding in my mind. And that night, as I lay in bed staring at the cracked ceiling, I thought of every time life had broken me, every time I had been told I couldn't survive, every time I had been pushed to the edge, and every time I had risen anyway, and I whispered to myself, "You will rise again. You will not let them win." And over the next days I moved in silence. I contacted the lawyers who had stood by me through the years. I pulled the papers that protected the ranch. I secured the trust so no greedy hand could touch it. And piece by piece I built a wall of protection around everything I had worked for, while they sat smug in their homes, believing the battle was already won, not knowing the war had only just begun. And when the day came that they returned, dressed sharp, eyes gleaming, ready to force my hand once more, I laid my own stack of papers on the table, documents stronger than their flimsy agreement, legal weapons they never saw coming, and as they reached for their pens, ready to claim my life, I leaned forward and pushed my documents toward them. And in that moment the air shifted. Their smiles faded, their voices cracked, their hands froze, because the power they thought they had crumbled before their very eyes, and I watched their faces fall. I watched silence grip the room. I watched the weight of their betrayal crash down on them, and in that silence I spoke, not with anger, not with shouting, but with a calm strength that carried more power than 1,000 screams. I told them respect cannot be bought, love cannot be forced, dignity cannot be stolen, and betrayal always comes with a price. And I told them I had secured the ranch, I had secured the trust, and I had secured my legacy, and they could touch nothing, absolutely nothing. And for the first time in my life I saw fear in their eyes, fear not of me as their mother, but fear of the power they thought I didn't have. And I rose from my chair, shoulders straight, heart steady, and I said words they never expected to hear, words that cut deeper than any pen could. I said, "You disowned me long before this day, but now I release you completely, and I walked out, not broken, not beaten, but whole, strong, and free, and in the days that followed, I felt lighter, I felt alive, I felt as if the chains of betrayal had not crushed me but had transformed into wings, wings of resilience, wings of strength, wings of freedom, and as I looked out at the ranch under the golden sky, I remembered who I was, not just a mother, not just a woman, but a warrior forged by pain, strengthened by sacrifice, and crowned by survival, and I knew the story was no longer about betrayal, it was about triumph, it was about resilience, it was about the kind of strength no contract, no betrayal, no cold smile could ever destroy, and if you are listening to me right now, if you have ever felt betrayed by the very people you trusted most, if you have ever felt cornered, abandoned, or made to believe you are powerless, I want you to know what I learned that day. You are stronger than their betrayal, you are braver than their threats, and you hold more power than their greed will ever allow. Do not surrender your worth. Do not sign away your dignity. Do not let the poison of others define you, because your story is not over, your fight is not lost, and your victory is still waiting. And if my story has touched your heart, if you felt even a spark of strength rise inside you, then I ask you to not stop here, because together we can rise higher. Together we can create a family built not on greed but on resilience, built not on betrayal but on truth. So hit that subscribe button right now. Join this journey. Be part of this movement, because your support keeps stories like this alive, stories that millions need to hear, stories that remind us all that dignity cannot be stolen. Love